Hello, my friend, and welcome to Secure and Secure, hosted by me, Johnny Seifert. This is the Celebrity Mental Health podcast that I say it's okay to not be okay. And if you have the same answer to me, wherever you're watching or listening, click that subscribe button and let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. Now, let me tell you about my guest today. My guest today started working in events management before becoming a chalet host on the slopes, spending her days making steak and fritters. And then during the pandemic, she opened Harry's Kitchen and Baking with Beavis. And with over 500,000 TikTok followers, she really is the queen of nurturing for the Gen Zers as she tells you daily what you need to be eating whilst making sure all her various animals and her grandparents are fed, whilst watching Harry Potter with a good glass of wine in the background. And from a mental health perspective, she makes sure you're confident in the way you look and feel with her company, the Big Titties Committee. And if that was not enough, she's now added author to her CV as Contrary Books have published her brand new book of hopefully many country comforts, one of the most beautiful books that I've got in my hand. So in a year that has already included an engagement, a house renovation, and endless cups of tea being made, I'm delighted to welcome to Significant. It's Harry Beavis. Hello, Harry.
Hi, it's lovely to be here.
Well, I am such a fan of your videos and I'm such a fan of yours. It's really an honor to be able to speak to you. So thank you for giving up time for me because I know how ridiculously busy you are right now.
It's absolutely fine. I'm very happy.
You actually probably need this for a bit of therapy just for a minute to go, can I just stop for a
I,
minute?
I've sat down. I've sat down. This never happened. I'm so excited.
Well, basically, I'm such a fan of yours, but I feel like that we only know certain elements of your life. And I think what's interesting is to join all the dots over. So we know, for example, your brother Will, and we know he loves his rainbow pancakes, but we don't know where the story is to get to him. So if it's all right, can we go all the way back to the beginning and talk about little Harry growing up and what your childhood was like?
Yes, of course. I feel like we could be here for hours of my childhood. So it basically, mum and dad were together, and then when I was about 12, they ended up getting a divorce, and it was very sad. And my sister and I, we took it quite hard from a mental health perspective. My sister probably more so at the beginning than me, but I didn't realize because I wanted to be big sister, looking after mum, looking after my sister. I didn't realize, I think, how much it had affected me until probably when I was 18 or so. So I was just burying my head in the sand, being like, it's absolutely fine. And then realizing that, oh, actually, I might have some abandonment issues and things like that. So it sort of evolved. Life moved on. I went away. Dad went to America when I was 16 or so. So unfortunately, we don't get to see him as much as we'd like. But then he went over there and they had William, and William is now 6. It was his 6th birthday the other day, which is absolutely bizarre to me because I swear he's still 18 months old. And that's how I ended up having Georgie and William as sisters, because often a sister and brother, because often are people like, oh, your brother, how old's he? And I'll be like 6. And then look at me like, okay, okay, you're 26. I'm like, yes, there's a
Are you
difference.
sure that's not your child? Are you sure that's
Yes,
your brother? Is
well,
there something that secretly went on that we can't talk about?
honestly, I joke with my dad all the time, being like, You're done now. I can't have when I have my kids, they can't be closer age to your kids than like my friends' kids. Like, it can't happen. Like, you've got to be done."
So, when you were going through the school system between 12 and 18, when you were going through the divorce but not really dealing with it, how did that affect you socially with friends?
For me, it really put into perspective who my friends were. Before they got divorced, my parents could afford to send me to private school, which was a lucky opportunity that not many people get to have. But then the divorce happened, and my mum was paying for the mortgage, roof over our head, and everything, and just couldn't afford, completely fine, couldn't afford to keep us there. So we ended up going back to public school because we started there, went to private school when they got a bit more money, and then ended up going back. And for me, I got on with people better there because I've always had learning difficulties, I've got dyslexia, everything else. And I just really struggled to, I was in the bottom sets all the time at private school. I was scraping the barrel in the bottom set as well. And then I went into public school and I just felt like the system worked better for me. People weren't so they weren't pushed as hard to be clever at maths and clever at this. And I found that my niche was the creative, and they had food tech, and they had all of these things that I found were better suited to me. So I preferred that. But it also meant that my friends changed because I moved school, and the friends that wanted to keep in touch kept in touch, and the friends that didn't. And that's life. I feel like that is also growing up. And sometimes you have, my mum says, you have friends for friends for a period, friends for life, and friends forever or something. I can't remember what the actual quote is, but she says that, and it is so true, because I think as you grow up as a teenager, you often have stresses, especially if there's a lot of change going on at home. You have stresses in school, being like, I have to be friends with all of the friends I've always been friends with because too much is changing. When actually, I think it's okay to be like, that was a friend for a childhood moment, and I'll always have fond memories. But people grow apart, people move apart, people have different jobs. And as you grow up, I think it's really important for people who are going through a lot of changes, realizing that it's okay to just be friends with the people that are wanting to be there and support you. And if people don't want to be there and support you, there's nothing wrong with that. You just know that they're not in your group anymore.
Well, also, it's a thing called stage, not age. I always say that, when you're going through the same stage of life with everyone in school, you're all
Mm.
kind of at the same thing. You've all got those things in common. And then, people get into relationships and, your first relationship, which, you know, you're all in couples, but then you become single again, and then you go, well, I can't be with all the couples now. I've got to be around single people. But then the single people don't really exist, and then you move into another relationship, and then you're again with couples, and it's that weird thing
Yeah.
that it's all about different stages of life. And you're right, you come in for those moments. I think what's hard is that those friends that were there for you during the divorce that you're not friends with now. You're like, you knew my deepest secrets, you knew how vulnerable I was, and yet that vulnerable version of Harry that you had is almost like diminished. And it's like, well, I gave you so much of me and now you've moved on. And yes, I've technically moved on, but it's also kind of unfair. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think a lot of children or teenagers or young adults that go through divorce, they'll have those friends that, and I've had friends that I was so close to in that time. And so I almost feel like I still I'm still holding on to the fact that I really want to be friends, but I don't see them as much. I don't have enough time to go, like they can live far away and I don't have all the time to go and see them. But like we could get really close again back in the future. But I think it's okay to have not ups and downs in relationships, but being able to see like closeness levels, if that makes sense. Like you don't have to then tell that person that was there for that point in your life everything that's going on now in your life if you don't feel comfortable with it. You can also tell the people that are closest to you now the closest and deepest, darkest things, and they won't necessarily know the closest and deepest, darkest things that were happening at that time. And I think that's okay to trust the people you want to trust with the right information at the right time.
And let's talk about trust. So, how did you find relationships with men at that time? When you're seeing your parents go through what they go through and going, look, this is my dad, the role model, and yet he's left us and he's gone to the other side of the world. How did that affect you, Harry, with your dating and kind of going, look, I need that support system, but also I'm probably slightly seeking someone who can be kind of a fatherly figure to me, but also someone that I know isn't just going to do what my dad's just done to me?
Yeah, and I think so when I was 18, like my first boyfriend, he was lovely and he was just what I needed at that time. And the reason we broke up was we just grew apart. I was doing my ski season, he was going to university, and it just wasn't like it was our families were so close and he was just a lovely boyfriend and he was with me through sort of those ups and downs, and he just knew how to deal with it, and he was just kind and patient. And I've always said I was very lucky with my first boyfriend. And then you move on, and I didn't really I was sort of looking for the wrong men for a little while, and looking for men that weren't available to be in a position of being in a relationship. Like they weren't looking for relationships, but I was looking for them, thinking that that's what I wanted. Because I think looking back on it, I've done a lot of soul searching, and I think looking back on it, it was a time where I was seeking someone that I wanted to be there that couldn't, which was weird because I was going through a point where I wanted my dad to be around more, but he couldn't because he was so far away and he'd now just had this new baby that obviously needed to take priority. Got back from uni ski season, and 3 years ago, I think 4 years ago or so, I ended up seeing somebody it was a tough relationship because again, I think I don't it's a tough one. I think I just wanted more from that relationship. Like we'd moved in together very soon and I'd expected a level of conversation to be able to be had, and we weren't having those conversations, and I was like this is like I want kids in the future. Is this something you want? and they just weren't prepared to give me a yes or a no. So it took a really hard moment for me to be like, if you're not sure, I know I'm sure. And that's really tough, I think, for some relationships, to be like, I know that this is what I want in my future, and that's not what you want, and that's the problem that we have. Unfortunately, like, that relationship ended quite badly and ended up getting quite toxic, and that took a really big toll on my mental health. And I did 8 months of proper soul searching, like proper giving my time for my mental health. So I didn't drink alcohol, I was gymming, I was walking, I was eating the right foods, I was getting 8 hours of sleep, I was journaling, I was opening myself up to new opportunities and going new places. And then having these new opportunities, after all of that, I ended up meeting Jake, who is my now fiance, and he was just everything that I had done the soul searching for. And I knew I needed to go for a different man. And he was kind. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't shout at me. He was okay when I wasn't okay. He knew exactly how to deal with it. And he is just such an amazing man, and something that I think I always wanted, but was never going for. And I think you have to take some time out. If you're having bad relationships, you need to take a good chunk of time out to really evaluate, why am I going for the wrong people? What is it in me that is attracted to that? Because I know I'm not attracted to it, but why am I going for it? It took me, I'd say, 9 months of doing that. And then I found Jake, and he was just everything that I had just been manifesting and working for and wanting in a partner. And that was it. He was a partner. He wasn't a boyfriend immediately. And then I think it was our third date that I ended up going over for dinner, and I just never left, and we've never spent a night apart.
When you're going through that fame stage and going, right, I've got to be filming everything because that's what my job is, and I am a content creator. How did you balance that of going, look, this is a new relationship and I'm getting used to you as a partner, but also technically there's a third person in this relationship and it's my phone and I've got to be filming things because at the end of the day, that is what the job is. And I think for TikTok, in the past 4 years where it's come bigger, we're not yet having those conversations of, yeah, it's all great being an influencer and being a content creator, but also there's a massive downside to it yet. And those conversations aren't happening. So can you open up, if that's okay with you, of how you found the other side to that?
And it's completely okay for people in relationships to not want to be involved in that side of people's, because it is work at the end of the day. And I think previous relationships may have found it quite difficult that is something that I do need to be quite on. And it's not a 9 to 5. It is very much I need to be on my phone when people need me. I need to be filming when what people want to see. And a lot of relationships, I think people find that quite tough. And that is okay. But that's a conversation that you need to have, where you need to say, is this something that I can do to make this better for you? But also, I need you to appreciate that this is something that isn't going to change, because this is a very important career path for me. And if that's something that you can't get over, then I think long term you need to say, is this going to work? Because I would never want to be with somebody and say, you can't do this job or you can't do this job because it doesn't work for me. Like, that's not a partnership. That isn't a relationship, and that's never going to work long term. But Jake is so good in that way, where I'll be like, babe, can I just shoot this content? And he'll be like, let me shoot it for you. Or he'll say, right, content, come on. That's like when we got engaged, he was like, oh my gosh, this will make this picnic, this will be such a nice like photo opportunity, let's take some content. And for me, it was just oh yeah, great idea, rather than this is suspicious, why has he set this all up? So it was like everything like that. You need to be able to find a partner that supports your job. And I think for me, I try really hard for my own mental health to do sort of like 9 till 6 o'clock. So I have my morning, I do the animals, I go through my list of what I need to do, and then I start on my filming. So if I'm doing a cooking day, I'll start at like 9 a.m. and I'll make sure I finish at 6. Or with emails and things like that, I really try and give myself those guidelines. And then obviously I'll work outside of them if it's something important or if anyone needs me. But otherwise, I found that I was burning out really quickly, because I was like, I've done 20 videos this week. It's Wednesday. Now what do I do? Oh, I'll go and do this. I'll go and do that. And I needed to be able to say, right, Saturday and Sunday, take the weekend to relax, to not really go on your phone, maybe like have some drafts and post them, but don't make that a content time.
And what I like about that is with Jake is that I suppose because he wants to help you, it also helps, for example, with the Big Titty Committee, when you're taking pictures of yourself in lingerie and in underwear, rather than it being seen as a seedy thing or, well, I don't want other people seeing Harry in that way. It's going, look, I'm part of this. I know what she's doing. I know that we're doing this together and that's her work. And therefore that's the work. And then there's Harry that can be with me afterwards.
Yeah, and I think again, previous relationships have thought of that as being like a seedy thing without, and I'll try and I will, any questions Jake has about it, I'll answer everyone. He's obviously not allowed to be part of it because he's not a boy, he's not a girl. But it is one of those where I'll be like, this is what I'm doing today, but he doesn't care. He doesn't ask questions, and I always respect him in anything that I do. And I think that's sort of the same when you get into a serious relationship. Your relationships with people do change because you respect that person. And with the BTC, like his mum, his sister, they're all on it. So they all see it. They all know that it's nothing not to be proud of. And if anything, he's so proud of me for doing that. And it's something that I would love his nieces to be able to come to me one day and be like, I'm really struggling with this. And I'll be like, I have got a place for you to be. And that's sort of why I created it, is for young women wanting to feel more confident, wanting to feel like they are a part of something that has no judgment and has no negativity. And I think sometimes people can think that it's just a page where I post bras and lingerie, but I think unless you're a part of it, you don't see like the vulnerable moments or like the morning pictures of me with my hair in a messy bun, toothpaste halfway down my face, being like, right, girls, let's have a chat. Like all of these things aren't seen because it's for the community. But then Jake sees me like that all the time. So he's like, you posted that, okay. Like if you want toothpaste in your hair and you want to post that, go for it. Like, he just doesn't care. And it's a trust thing and he respects me for it.
But he knows that you're a fixer. And I think something about you, and the one thing that really stands out about you in your whole life, if you take a step back and look at every element, is you are a fixer. You're trying to fix the world, and slowly by slowly doing it by each person. But why do you do that? You know, you're such a giver, and yeah, you're a little bit of a taker as well. But on the whole, you're a massive giver. So why are you trying to fix the world? What's going on with Harry that's going, I didn't have the support when it came to me and the way I look in underwear. I didn't get necessarily all the food that I wanted. I didn't get, that love that I've got to give it to everyone else, because it sometimes feels like you're maybe overcompensating then when you're so stretched. Because like you said, you don't need to do a 9 to 6. You could be doing a 9 to 5, but because so much is going on and you're trying to spin so many plates, it's like you're trying to make sure everyone is okay rather than making sure you're okay.
That's something I've never really thought about, is just the way I am. I think I can sometimes be overly empathetic, if that makes sense. And it
Hmm.
makes me feel so bad to see someone upset. I then am like, all I can think about is, right, so I need to make them a lasagna, I need to get them a card, I need to do this, I need to try and just make them better, because I feel like it actually just makes me feel awful to know that someone I love is struggling. But then it's like got to points where I have not had arguments at all, but had moments in friendships where I've really needed to be there for someone else. So I've given a lot of my time to be there for someone, and then I've gone, oh crap, I'm knackered. I just need a night in for me. And then someone will be like, but you said you come out for dinner. And I'm like, I know, but I'm just knackered. I just need like a night in. I just want to cuddle up on the sofa. And people can get really shirty with that and being like, but you like work from home. Like you haven't got a hard job. You haven't got all of this. And I'm like,
If only
I
they knew.
I like am on all the time. Like I go to bed thinking, oh my God, right, that reel didn't perform well last night. How can I get another one that performs well so that people aren't disappointed in me? And I feel like it is just constantly, not constantly, but I am looking for approval from the people I loved. And I don't know why that is. I don't know. But maybe that's why, again, Jake and I work so well, because he is my biggest hype girl. Like he will be the first person to tell me how proud he is of me. And he's just amazing. And I feel like I get validation from him for anything. I could literally have showered twice and he'll be like, you clean queen. Like it's something so small. But I do just want to make sure that I think by looking after everyone else, people will be, I'm a people pleaser. And I think that is sort of it. Like, I want to make sure everyone's okay because I just want the love of people. And I don't know why that is. I've never been able to put a nail on it. But yeah, I don't know whether I'm seeking some form of love from people. I just don't know. But it is, I just want to make sure everyone's happy and they feel loved, because then they might love me because I gave them the happiness and the love.
Well, that's it. What do you think would happen if for 1 week, next Monday, you go, right, grandparents, you've got to fend for yourselves. Mum, you've got to fend for yourself. Jake, you can do your own washing. I'm having a week off. Social media, you're dead to me. I am just going to watch Harry Potter for, I don't know how many times you've watched Harry Potter, but
Oh,
if,
it's ridiculous.
but
So
I'm just stopping. Right, what do you think would happen if you weren't that people pleaser and you just stopped?
I just get such bad anxiety. Like, it's something where I have often wondered what, like, I was on some medication for all of that stuff, and I don't know whether, I think if I stopped, I would just have to go back on it. Like, I'm moving into my new house next week, and the thought of not being next door for mum or Nana and Gramps if they need something, if they need dinner, is like, it's like a dreading feeling in me. And I know it will be okay when it happens because I'm literally 3 minutes down the road. But so if they need anything, I can be there. I can still cook them dinner if they need. But the thought that someone needed me and I wasn't there just fills me with dread. Like, I hate it. And like the thought of it is like making me like, oh my God, that's so, like, it would give me anxiety.
How old are you now?
25.
And how would you feel?
I have no idea. I've always felt older.
Yeah.
I've always felt,
It feels like you've had to compromise and kind of taken on the matriarch of the family. And I hope that's okay to say, that doesn't offend your mum. But it feels like as a child, when I was trying to be young 12-year-old Harry, I was already having to make sure mum was okay, that my grandparents were okay. And I was almost like 30 years old at that point.
yeah, I think because my mum's been the hardest worker, but that means like having a mortgage for all of us kids in a place that was our family home. She was up at 6 and not getting back till 10, like working to put a roof over our heads, working to try and put us through private school at the start. And something had to give, the family home or school, and it was school, and that is completely okay. Like, Georgie and I are fine. But it was a sense that she's working this hard for us. I then need to make sure she's okay so that she can continue to do that. And I think that's something that I've never really thought about or accepted, but it's a wanting to make sure that I am never, I think that's probably where my work ethic comes from. Like, I don't ever want to stress about money. Say that I've just bought a house and now I'm stressing about money.
But you
Besides the
have got
point.
a new book out now that you've been paid very well for. Country Come First, out to lie now.
Yes, yes, please buy it, please. But I think it is just one of those where, again, like, I need to make sure, because these people that I make sure are okay, they fill my glass. Like, they are the reasons I'm happy. They're the reasons I have such a strong family network. They're the reason my friends are incredible and I have such incredible friends. If they're all okay, then I'm okay. It's a really weird way to, but I've always been like that. Like, my sister was 2 years younger than me when my parents got divorced, and I wanted to make sure that she was okay, because that's like a really difficult age. When you're 10, you're aware of what's going on, but you're not aware of how adult life can affect. Whereas I feel like when you're 12, 13, going on to your later teenage years, you're aware of relationships. You've started to understand the dynamics, but Georgie was just 2 years younger than I think she, just to understand what was going on. And I was so aware that mum was struggling with the divorce, Georgie was struggling with the divorce, so I couldn't, because I needed to make sure everything was okay. And I just think any older sibling does just sort of take that on their shoulders, but I just think I've never really let that go. So I'm always just making sure, like, moving and not being here to cook mum dinner. Mum's so fine. She's like, I'm gonna get an M&S dinner takeout for one every night. It's gonna be the best thing ever. And I'm there like, oh, but you don't want that. You want to be looked after. And I don't know why that is.
But I suppose what then happens, everything happens for a reason. And if we look at the strengths that have come out of the divorce, maybe, is that, you dealt with fame really well, and you've got the following, and you've got an audience that are really engaged in you and absolutely love you. However, you could have, if you wanted to, have been part of Made in Chelsea now. You're friends with people like Miles and Temps from the show, and you could have easily gone that way. But I think their mental side of you probably wouldn't be able to take that experience, which is why it's best that you've stayed down the lane of content creating where you're in control, because then you can control your emotions rather than someone
Mm.
else doing it for you.
Yeah, and I would also like I got asked to do Love Island a couple of times. Like these are just things that I don't think my mental health would have been able to deal with. And they would have been amazing opportunities. Don't get me wrong. I have friends on all of these shows and they are incredible people and they handle it so well. It's just something I know I would struggle with. And if there was a narrative, I talk and talk and talk and talk, as you can get from this podcast. If there was a narrative about me that I didn't like, oh, anxiety again, going, oh, but they've just seen that little minute of me. And I know that people have said things on shows and they've run with a narrative that is nothing to do with their personality. And I'm a control freak as it is. I need to be in control of what is put out there about myself. And I think if something was put out there and I was like, that's so not how I meant it, I'd be fighting for months to make sure everyone knew, like, I didn't mean it in that context. I meant it in this context. And that's not me. This is me. And I'd just get all flustered. And that's just not something I think me and my mental health would deal with very well.
Well, let's talk about what you are in control of. Your book, Country Comfort, is out by now, Country Books. How did you find putting it together with your dyslexia and organising your thoughts? Because it's very organised into 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30-minute meals. So how did you find that with the dyslexia?
So for me, and Jake laughs, I have to have lists. Like there are endless pieces of paper with lists, to-do lists and things like that. So I needed to categorize this book in some form of organization. And I think the 10, 20, 30, 40, and then Baking Everything Better chapter, that was a way for me to be like, this is for novice cookers, this is for more experienced cookers, and just basically walk people through in an organized way. These are recipes that everyone can do. And I really wanted it to feel like a family scrapbook because I've always had such a close, tight-knit family. Nana would cook us her chocolate cake. Mum would cook us dragon pie from dragons from the Welsh mountains. There's a whole story about that in the book. I wanted it to feel like everyone's family recipes being collated into one book, hence all the scrapbook drawings and everything. So I just wanted it to be a bit of home for anybody, whoever's like, if you're going through crap, if you're going through a divorce, a breakup, whatever it is, there's something comforting and cuddly in that book for you.
I completely agree with you. Your book, Harry Beavis, Country Comforts, is out to go and buy now in all good bookshops and buy it online. My absolute thanks to Harry. I absolutely love her. Go and check out her TikToks, her Instagram reels. Go and watch the house renovation, the engagement plans, the wedding plans. She's looking for a venue right now. So if you know a venue around Warwickshire, get in contact with
Really need help with that.
her. You've been watching or listening to Second Interview with me, Johnny. If you enjoyed the episode, please click that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay. On Instagram, I'm at Johnny Seifert, at Skinny Podcast. I'm on TikTok at Johnny Seifert 92. I've got a smidgen of followers, but if you want someone who's got lots of followers, Harry, over to you. What are your socials?
My socials are Harry Beavis, HARIBEAVIS, on Instagram and TikTok. And then you've got the Big Titted Committee. You can find that in my bio, and the Harry Harbin Home, which is going to be interesting because we haven't got a Scooby what we're doing.
Well, hold on a minute. The Big Titty Committee you've just plugged out to everyone, and you've not said it's only for females. Does that mean now that we can join?
No, sorry. That is only for women. I'm so sorry.
But if you want to see Knobs, go on to the home renovation page because she just bought Knobs for £6 in B&Q. What a bargain. My absolute thanks to Harry. I'm Johnny Seifert. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.